There's a moment in every soul's journey when something deep starts to awaken, an unexplainable feeling that makes you stop in the middle of the day and sense that something's shifting. Maybe you woke up with this strange certainty that time is running out, or felt a familiar presence when you should be totally alone. If this has happened to you, it's no coincidence. It's not imagination, and it's definitely nothing to be afraid of. Today I'm going to share with you the 10 sacred signs the soul shows when it's getting ready for the big transition. Knowledge guarded by ancient traditions, validated by hospice professionals, and reported by thousands of people around the world. If this content is resonating with something inside you, hit that like button so we can get this wisdom out to more people who need to hear this, and subscribe to the channel because we've got a deep journey ahead. Are you ready to unlock the secrets your soul already knows but your mind hasn't quite grasped yet? The first sign is maybe the most subtle, but also the most powerful. The soul starts communicating through an inner knowing that transcends logic. Imagine for a moment, you know that feeling when something just knows inside you? It's not a thought. It's not an emotion. It's like a silent voice, older than your memories, starts whispering truths your conscious mind isn't ready to accept yet. Professionals working in hospices report this constantly. Patients who suddenly know they have days, not months. People who were never spiritual start talking about feeling. It's time to go. They can't explain how they know. They just know. But here's what's truly extraordinary about this first sign. It doesn't come with fear. On the contrary, it brings a strange sense of peace, as if the soul is finally reconnecting with a wisdom that was always there. Sarah, a nurse with 30 years of experience, told me about a patient who, 3 weeks before passing, woke up one morning and said, "My soul is getting me ready to go home." When asked how she knew, she just smiled and replied, "The same way you know when you're hungry. You just know." This inner knowing is the first bridge the soul builds between the physical world and what lies beyond. It's as if it starts tuning into a different frequency, picking up signals our physical senses can't perceive. Now, get ready for something that might make you question everything you thought you knew about reality. The second sign is visitations. And no, I'm not talking about coincidences or imagination. I'm talking about real, tangible encounters with loved ones who have already transitioned. This is happening to someone you know right now. Studies document that over 70% of people in the transition process report visits from family, friends, or even pets who have already passed. But here's what will make you rethink everything. These visitations follow specific and consistent patterns, regardless of the person's culture, religion, or beliefs. Maria, 78, was hospitalized when she started chatting animatedly with the empty corner of the room. When the nurse asked who she was talking to, Maria naturally replied, "With my mom and my sister. They came to pick me up." Maria's mother had passed away 40 years earlier, and her sister 15 years ago. The most impressive part? Maria was lucid, oriented, and described specific details about her visitor's clothes and appearance, details she couldn't have made up. Dr. Peter Fenwick, a neuropsychiatrist who studied thousands of end-of-life experiences, discovered something fascinating. These visitations aren't hallucinations. They have distinct characteristics that completely differentiate them from any altered state of consciousness known to medicine. The visitors always appear young, healthy, and radiating peace. They don't come to scare, but to comfort, to say that everything is okay, that on the other side there's only love waiting. And then something happens that might seem disconcerting to an outside observer, but is deeply liberating for those experiencing it. The third sign is a gradual detachment from the material world. The soul starts loosening the ties that bind it to this plane, like a balloon slowly releasing its ballast. Have you ever noticed how babies come into the world with their fists clenched, as if grasping something? And how, when leaving, people naturally relax their hands, letting go of everything. This detachment isn't sadness, it's not depression, it's something completely different. It's a reordering of priorities on a cosmic scale. People who are always attached to material possessions start distributing their belongings without melancholy. That precious photo, the family ring, the favorite book. Suddenly, these things lose their magnetic importance. not because they lost value, but because the soul is remembering much greater values. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross documented this phenomenon in thousands of patients. She found that this detachment isn't a sign of giving up, but of transcendence. It's as if the person starts seeing life through a much wider lens. Roberto, a successful businessman, spent 40 years accumulating wealth. 3 months before his transition, he started giving everything to charity organizations. When his family questioned him, he said something I'll never forget. "I spent decades gathering things here, but now I realize that what truly matters is already waiting for me on the other side." But perhaps the most beautiful thing about this detachment is this. As the person lets go of material attachment, they gain access to a spiritual richness that fills them in a way no physical possession ever could. It's as if the soul is doing a cosmic spring cleaning, getting rid of the unnecessary to make space for the eternal. The fourth sign is when the soul begins to see beyond the veil of physical reality, and what it sees can completely transform our understanding of life and death. Have you ever had a dream so vivid you woke up questioning if it was really just a dream? Now imagine that's not a dream, but a natural expansion of consciousness that happens when the soul prepares for transition. People in the process of passing start reporting visions of indescribably beautiful places. These aren't hallucinations caused by medication or lack of oxygen in the brain. They are coherent, structured, and deeply meaningful experiences that follow universal patterns documented by researchers worldwide. Dr. Raymond Moody, a pioneer in near-death experience studies, collected thousands of accounts describing landscapes of a beauty that transcends our imagination. Fields of golden light that undulate like oceans of pure energy, gardens where every flower emits its own musical frequency, crystal cities that pulse with conscious life. But the most impressive thing isn't the beauty of these places, it's the sense of recognition people report, as if they're finally coming home after a long journey. Ana Luisa, a retired teacher, 3 days before passing, described to her daughter, "I see a place where colors have sound and music has color. There's a golden bridge, and on the other side I can see everyone who passed before me, waving and smiling. They're waiting for me, my daughter, and they're all fine." What makes these visions even more extraordinary is that they don't come with fear or anxiety. On the contrary, they bring a deep peace and genuine excitement, like a child finally getting to visit the amusement park they've heard about their whole life. Ancient spiritual traditions have always known this. Tibetans call it bardo, the intermediate state where consciousness expands beyond physical limitations. Sufi mystics speak of alam al-mithal, the imaginal world where the soul glimpses higher realities. And here's something that will make you rethink everything about the nature of reality. These visions are not products of a deteriorating mind. They are the mind finally free from the limitations of the physical brain, accessing dimensions that have always existed, but are usually hidden by the density of matter. Get ready to witness one of the most profound and healing phenomena the soul can experience. The fifth sign is when the person begins to actively seek reconciliation, not just with others, but with existence itself. It's as if the soul initiates a spontaneous life review, not to judge, but to heal and integrate. This isn't what you imagine. It's not a depressed person rehashing regrets. It's something much more transcendent. It's the soul making peace with its human journey, recognizing the divine purpose, even in the most painful moments. People who have held resentments for decades suddenly feel an urgent need to forgive, not out of social or moral pressure, but because something within them recognizes that forgiveness is the key to total freedom. Juan Carlos, a man who hadn't spoken to his brother for 20 years over an inheritance dispute, 2 weeks before passing, asked his family to contact his brother. When they met, Juan said something that gave everyone chills. "I chose this fight, brother, because my soul needed to learn about forgiveness. Now that I've learned, I can leave in peace." But reconciliation goes beyond human relationships. It's a reconciliation with choices made, lost opportunities, unfulfilled dreams. The person begins to see how every experience, even the most painful, contributed to the soul's growth. Dr. Kenneth Ring, in his studies on consciousness transformation, found that people close to transition develop a perspective he calls transcendent life review. They begin to see their existence as a complete book, where every chapter, including the most difficult ones, had a specific purpose in the larger narrative. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of cosmic reconciliation is when the person begins to forgive themselves. That critical inner voice that accompanied them for decades suddenly quiets. Not because the mistakes disappear, but because the soul recognizes that mistakes are an integral part of the human experience. Maria das Graças, a nurse who always blamed herself for not saving a patient 30 years ago, a few days before passing, said something that transformed her whole family. I understand now that it wasn't my job to save everyone. My job was to love people while they were in my care. And I always did that. Cosmic reconciliation is the soul making peace with human imperfection and recognizing the divine perfection that was always present, even in the darkest moments of the journey. Now we come to the sign that's perhaps the most incomprehensible to outside observers, but the most liberating for those experiencing it. The sixth sign is the emergence of a serenity that transcends any form of peace we know in this world. It's not resignation. It's not giving up. It's something completely different. It's the soul finally relaxing in the absolute certainty that everything is exactly as it should be. Imagine the feeling of a child in its mother's arms after a long day of playing. That total security, that absolute trust that it's protected and loved. Now multiply that feeling by 1,000, and you'll have a small idea of what these people experience. Hospice professionals consistently report people who fought against death for months suddenly enter a state of radiant acceptance. It's not that they gave up on life, it's that they discovered something greater than physical life. Dr. Ira Byock, a palliative care physician, documented thousands of cases where terminally ill patients experience what he calls paradoxical well-being. Even as their bodies deteriorate, they radiate a peace that contagifies everyone around them. Nurses report it's common for family members to ask, "What did you give her? I've never seen her so serene." But they gave nothing. The serenity comes from within, from the soul that finally remembers its eternal nature. Teresa, a 65-year-old woman, was always anxious and worried about everything. During her transition, she transformed into a source of calm for her whole family. When asked how she was so peaceful, she replied, "It's like I spent my whole life trying to solve an impossible puzzle, and now I finally see that the pieces were never out of place. They always formed a perfect design, I just couldn't see the whole picture." This serenity isn't passivity, it's an active trust in the cosmic process. It's the soul recognizing that it's part of something infinitely larger and wiser than its individual experience. Contemplative traditions have always known this. Buddhists call it nirvana, the extinguishing of suffering through the understanding of impermanence. Christian mystics speak of the dark night of the soul that precedes divine union. Sufis describe fana, the disappearance of the ego into the ocean of the divine. And here's what's truly extraordinary. This serenity isn't achieved through years of meditation or spiritual study. It arises naturally when the soul prepares to return to its origin. It's as if the dying process activates dormant memories of who we really are beyond this temporary identity. People in this state frequently say things like, "Don't be afraid for me. Where I'm going is more real than here." Or, "I feel like I'm finally waking up from a very long dream." Transcendental serenity is the soul remembering home and the joyful anticipation of return. Get ready to discover how the entire universe conspires to make the soul's transition an experience of indescribable beauty. The seventh sign is when seemingly impossible events begin to happen with a frequency that defies all logic. Synchronicities multiply, as if the entire cosmos is orchestrating a symphony of farewell. Have you ever experienced those moments where everything seems to align perfectly? Where you think of someone and they call, where you need an answer and it appears unexpectedly. Now imagine that happening continuously, creating a tapestry of meaning that reveals the interconnectedness of everything that exists. Families report phenomena that leave even the most hardened skeptics questioning the nature of reality. Clocks that stop at the exact moment of passing, birds that appear at closed windows, flowers that bloom out of season in the loved one's garden. Dr. Carl Jung would call this meaningful synchronicity, events that have no causal relation, but carry a deep meaning that transcends coincidence. For those undergoing the transition, these synchronicities are not a surprise. They are confirmations that they are aligned with the natural flow of the universe. Dona Lucia always loved hummingbirds, but never managed to see them on her urban balcony. In the week of her transition, 3 hummingbirds appeared and stayed outside her window for days, like little celestial guardians. The family was perplexed until they understood. It was the universe offering a farewell gift to a soul who always found beauty in small things. But synchronicities go beyond external phenomena. People report casual encounters with individuals who bring exactly the needed words, books that open to the right page, songs that play on the radio carrying precise messages. The most fascinating thing is that these synchronicities don't just happen for the person in transition. They extend to their entire network of relationships. It's as if the soul, preparing to leave, activates a frequency that harmonizes everything around it. Marcos, a skeptical doctor, was taking care of his mother in her last days. He always laughed at the coincidences she reported, until on the day of her passing, he found a letter she had written 20 years earlier, kept in a book he randomly picked up. The letter said, "To my dear son, on the day I'm no longer here, remember that love never dies, it just changes form." Cosmic synchronization is proof that we are part of an intelligence much greater than our individual understanding. Now we come to one of the deepest and most misunderstood signs, when the soul develops forms of communication that completely transcend human language. The 8th sign is the ability to transmit love, wisdom, and goodbyes through means that go far beyond words. It's as if the soul, preparing to leave the physical vehicle, discovers pure forms of expression that directly touch the hearts of others. Have you ever felt what someone was thinking without them saying a word? Have you ever been absolutely certain you received an important message through a look, a touch, or even a presence felt at a distance? For people in the process of transition, this silent communication becomes the most natural form of expression. It's not telepathy in the mystical sense. It's something much more fundamental. It's the soul speaking directly to other souls without the interference of the analytical mind. Nurses report extraordinary cases of patients who completely lost the ability to speak, but can transmit complex messages through their gaze. Family members describe entire conversations that happen without a single word being spoken. Luciana never had a close relationship with her grandfather. He was always a reserved man who rarely showed affection. In his last days of life, when he could no longer speak, something changed. She describes, "He looked at me in a way he never had before. Suddenly I knew, I didn't think, I knew, that he loved me deeply, that he always loved me, but never knew how to express it. It was as if 80 years of hidden love were transmitted in those few seconds." But this communication goes beyond direct contact. People in transition often visit loved ones in dreams or moments of meditation, transmitting farewell messages, important guidance, or simply the certainty that they are well. Dr. Alan Kelleher, a sociologist specializing in end-of-life experiences, documented hundreds of cases where family members, even at a distance, receive clear communications at the exact moment of transition. These are not hallucinations or wishful thinking. They are experiences so vivid and coherent that they forever transform these people's understanding of the nature of consciousness. Patricia was traveling for work when her mother passed away. At the exact moment of passing, later confirmed by doctors, she woke up in the hotel with the clear sensation that her mother was by the bedside, transmitting a message, "It's all right, my daughter. I'm free now. Continue your journey with joy." Communication beyond words reveals that the connection between souls doesn't depend on physical proximity or the body's functionality. It's a network of love that transcends all material limitations. Get ready to discover perhaps the most extraordinary and comforting aspect of this entire process. The 9th sign is when the person shows a surprising ability to consciously choose the moment and circumstances of their departure. It's not ego-driven control, but a deep harmony with perfect cosmic timing. This might seem impossible to anyone who has never witnessed it, but professionals who work daily with the end of life know. Many people literally wait for the right moment to leave. They wait for a family member to arrive from afar. They wait for a significant date. Or, surprisingly, they wait for a loved one to leave the room to spare them the pain of witnessing the final moment. It's as if the soul has access to a wisdom that perfectly coordinates the needs of everyone involved. Dr. Maggie Callanan, a nurse specializing in end-of-life care, reports in her studies that approximately 70% of the deaths she witnessed showed some degree of intentional timing. People literally choose when to leave. Roberto waited 5 days in critical condition for his son to return from abroad. The moment his son arrived at the hospital, held his hand and said, "You can go, Dad, it's all right," Roberto passed peacefully within minutes. But perhaps even more touching are the cases where the person chooses to leave when they are alone, sparing the family the pain of witnessing, as if even in transition, the last act is one of love and protection. Dona Maria always said she didn't want anyone to see her go. For 2 weeks, family members took turns on constant vigil. In the only hour her granddaughter left to grab a coffee, Maria chose her moment. She left a note on the bedside table. "Thank you for all the love. Now I can fly free." This capacity for conscious choice reveals something profound about the nature of the soul. It is not a victim of circumstances, but an active participant in its own journey, even at the moment of transition. Shamanic traditions have always recognized this. Elders speak of dying well, not as resignation, but as the last great conscious choice a soul can make in this dimension. Subscribe to the channel and hit that like button to get access to more stories like this. Conscious choice is the soul taking full responsibility for its journey and orchestrating a departure that honors both its own nature and the love for those who remain.